It's the moment you've all been waiting for. It's time to talk about the quarterback position as we prepare for spring practices for Sun Devils football.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. A special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. And don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications wherever you're getting your podcast. Stay in touch with the show by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. New customers join today, and you'll get $150 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back in. Today, we are talking about what everybody has been waiting for. And of course, that is the quarterback position. It's the sexiest position in all of sports. It's the position that defines your program, your team, your franchise, whatever. When you have a good quarterback, you are going to be a good team. When you have an elite quarterback, you have a chance for unlimited possibilities. When you've got unknowns at quarterback, that's where it's interesting. And for Arizona State, we are teetering closer to unknown than we are proven or elite or very good or anything like that. Now, that's not to say there's no upside here. In fact, there is a ton of upside, not just with who's going to be quarterback one, but who quarterback two is. And we're going to talk about all of that. But we have to start with the most obvious guy, okay? We cannot have a discussion about the quarterback position without first talking about the one and only Jaden Rashada. Jaden Rashada is the future of this position. As long as he is able to maintain quality play or take a really big step forward, given the amount of upside and talent that he has, you're looking at one of the most interesting quarterbacks that the Sun Devils have had in the most recent years. Jaden Daniels is probably the only other quarterback that I would put ahead of Rashada in terms of the upside that you have seen over the last, God, you could go even like 20 years, honestly. Like, there's been good quarterbacks. We have not seen very many guys that are built like Jaden Rashada, who's 6'4", who's around 200 pounds, who's got a cannon attached to his right arm and can push the ball down the field, who is able to move around with athleticism that you don't normally see out of guys that are as big as him. He can beat you with his legs. He's able to deliver those off-scripted throws. He's got all of the potential. The problem, we haven't gotten to see it yet. Rashada only played 3 games last year, and that was because of injuries that he had sustained very early in the season. They shut him down after the second game of the year. He did not return to the lineup until the final 2 games of the year. He did not appear in the Oregon game, but he was active. And then he did play against Arizona and had a okay performance. It definitely was not his best game, but you also were going up against a very good Arizona team. He was always going to be behind the 8 ball. Now, what's incredible is in 3 games, he had the most passing touchdowns on the team with 4. I don't know what that says about the rest of the room. I don't know what that says about the offense. I don't know what that says about Jaden Rashada, because it could mean a whole lot of things. We could sit here and dissect it for an hour. We could dissect it for an entire week of podcasts. But focusing on Rashada by himself, that to me shows you how good he can be. With an offense that was so inept, in scoring touchdowns through the air. 8 total touchdowns in 12 games. 4 of them came in 3 games from Jaden Rashada. The inability to get into the end zone through the air, staggering how unbelievably difficult it was for this team. But now you are adding Jaden Rashada back to this lineup. And as I have said many a times on this show, we are always going to be working under the assumption they are healthy. I do not believe it is fair to look at these guys and say they're guaranteed to get injured, blah, blah, blah. We are always working under the assumption that they are going to play 12 games, 13 games, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, however many. Jaden Rashada stays healthy, you've got your best chance and your best opportunity to win more football games, to get into the end zone more through the air, to be able to have a much higher upside as a passing team. And you've got the weapons. You've got Elijah Badger. You've got Troy O'Mary. You've got Clayton. Cameron Scadaboo out of the backfield. You got Raleek Brown out of the backfield. You got Bryce Pierre. You've got no shortage of weapons. It's just a matter of being able to get the most out of those weapons. And that's Jaden Rashada. Rashada gives you the best chance, the best opportunity to get the most out of these guys, to be able to take that step forward in the Kenny Dillingham offense. He showed it in 3 games. And yes, he looked like a freshman at times. He still threw 3 interceptions in those 3 games. 2 of them came against Oklahoma State. He did struggle, absolutely. Any freshman is, though. You don't find many freshmen that are going to come out and be Heisman Trophy candidates. They're very few and far between. You just don't see it. 2 redshirt freshmen have ever won it, with Johnny Manziel and Jameson. Oh my God, Jameis Winston. Oh my God, I cannot believe that I totally blanked on Jameis Winston. That's crazy. But neither here nor there. They're the only 2 redshirt freshman quarterback to ever win the award. They both go on to be first-round picks. Winston was the number 1 overall pick. Jaden Rashada, could he? Of course he could, but similar to the injury thing, we can't just assume that these guys are going to come out and be Heisman winners. At least not now. Maybe down the road I can be a little more biased and allow myself to do that. But until then, you need to be working under the assumption that there is growth to be made. And Rashada completed under 54% of his passes. He was 5.9 yards per attempt. He was turnover prone, I would say. I think that's fair. There's just room to improve. And that's going to be the case with just about every guy. But nonetheless, he's got the highest upside, the highest ceiling. He's got potential that, like I said, we've really only seen with Jaden Daniels over the last several years. He is truly in that caliber of talent, of upside, of the ability to lead this offense and get them to new heights and potentially get them back over into the bowl game territory, to get the 6 wins, the 7 wins, 8 wins, maybe even get us closer to 9 or 10, or find a way to really compete in a Big 12 that is wide open right now. Arizona State could get to that point, but it's going to be up to Jaden Rashada to get you there. Now, as far as spring practice goes, there's a couple of things you're going to be looking for. The first and most important thing is the health. You want to see that Jaden Rashada is 100% good to go. I think in his last game against Arizona, you could tell he was still a little uncomfortable, but he definitely looked pretty solid. Now, you are going to be about 4 months removed, because it's going to be at the end of March, so somewhere around that mark. And you are going to want to see how he looks. You want to see that he is 100%. You want to see that he's got the comfort and the confidence back to be able to do everything that he does, because he is a mobile guy. He is somebody that's able to, like I said, do the off-scripted stuff and do the things that other guys that have been on the Sun Devils team have not been able to do. You want to see that he's back at that point. I don't really have any questions about his ability to run or his ability to push the ball down the field. What I want to see is confidence. That's the biggest thing right now. I want to see that he's not afraid to throw into tight coverage. I want to see that he's not afraid to hang in the pocket when the pressure collapses, or the opposite, and roll out when all else fails. That's where you want to see what you got in Jaden Rashada during spring ball. You just want to see that the confidence is returning. That's my biggest thing, and I'll continue to hammer that. It's all about confidence for Jaden Rashada. Obviously, there's going to be other stuff too. You want to see his ability to become a more precise passer. You want to see whether or not he can take the next step as a runner, because I think he can be a dual threat. I don't see him that way, the way you did see Jaden Daniels, but he could be that kind of guy. You want to see that he understands the system more in year two, and he's got a new offense under Coach Arroyo. You still have Kenny Dillingham there. There's a lot of things that are going to factor in, and it's not just going to be spring ball that we're going to be paying attention to this, but this is where it starts, is paying attention to March and April and the team scrimmage game, and then in training camp where he is at. Because only playing 3 games last year is going to be tough. But at the same time, and in the same token, maybe that gave him a lot of opportunity to learn behind the scenes. We're going to have a lot to pay attention to with Jaden Rashada, but we have a lot to pay attention to with the quarterback position in general. We have questions about who quarterback 2 is. There's 2 really big name guys that we'll be paying attention to. There's going to be some other guys who will try and throw their name in the hat, and we're going to talk about them in just one moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your team wins, if your bet wins. Bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props, and more. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and shoot your shot. FanDuel, official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Wherever you're getting those podcasts, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. As always, I appreciate you guys for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. We're going to hop back into our conversation. I do want to mention real quick to check out the Locked On Sports Today 24/7 streaming on YouTube and Amazon Fire. Stay up to date with all your biggest stories in every sport, in every league. Who is quarterback 2? Well, that's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. There are 2, what would I call it? Not most important, but most obvious guys that you're going to be paying attention to this year to be quarterback 2, and maybe even quarterback 1. I mean, like I said, you can't just go into this and assume that Rashada's not going to be healthy, just in the same way that you can't assume that he's going to come in and be dominant. You still need to understand that there's a lot of growing that he needs to do, and there's a lot of work that needs to be done, which is why Arizona State brought in competition. Kenny Dillingham told Jaden Rashada, and he told the rest of the quarterbacks on the roster, hey, we're bringing in a guy for competition. And Rashada said, bring it on. I'm here for it. I embrace it. I'm about it. I'm about that action, boss. That was Jaden Rashada. And what do? They go get Sam Leavitt. And Leavitt is coming in from Michigan State. He was also part of Jaden Rashada's recruiting class. He also redshirted this past year. He also was a 4-star prospect. So it's not like Leavitt is not a good quality option. In fact, he is a very quality option. You're talking about a guy who was in the same caliber of the tier in recruiting that Rashada was in. Leavitt is, while I don't know that I would call him the same overall athlete that Jaden Rashada is, It's not like he can't run. He averaged 5.2 yards on the ground last year in 4 games. Maybe he doesn't have the biggest arm in the world, but he still has more than adequate amount of strength to be able to push the ball down the field. This is an outstanding option to put up against Jaden Rashada. I don't know that I can think of a better, I wouldn't even call him a backup. Like, you could almost go quarterback 1A, quarterback 1B with Leavitt. And we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. But this is the guy that's really going to push Rashada and every other quarterback on this roster to be the absolute best they can be. He definitely has room to grow. Michigan State, he didn't get too much time. He appeared in 4 games, which is why he was able to retain his red shirt. He is still someone that is more than capable of seizing the starting quarterback role. And that's where you need to understand your situation if you are Jaden Rashada. You can't go into this training camp with the assumption of, I'm QB1, I don't need to worry about being usurped from my position. That's not true at all. You absolutely need to go in and play your best, not just to prove yourself, but to prove to the rest of the team, the rest of the staff, the rest of your teammates that you are number 1 quarterback. And Sam Leavitt could easily push him. Now, for the sake of this portion of the conversation, he feels like slam dunk quarterback 2 in terms of talent. However, there is the fan favorite that is always going to have a chance to not just be quarterback 2, but to push Rashada, to push Leavitt to be the starting quarterback. Of course, that's Trenton Bourguet. Bourguet's been around the program for the better part of 40 years now, maybe 50 years, it feels like. But he has had starting time in each of the last 2 years, and he has had success with the team. Has he been perfect? No, of course not. Last year, he only had 1 touchdown, but he was still able to rally guys. He was still able to play better than the other options that ASU had last year, like Drew Pine and Jacob Conover. He was significantly better than both of them. He is the definition of a terrific backup quarterback. What do you do with him and Sam Leavitt? That's where I'm most excited, because there's a couple different ways you can look at this. The first way that you can look at this is, who provides me the most stable opportunity to be quarterback 2, where if we're in a pinch, you can put him in as QB1. That's Trenton Bourguet, because he has plenty of starts under his belt. He's got plenty of game time experience, not just his starts. I mean, he's been put in for injuries and whatnot. He is more than capable of coming in when the team needs him to come in, whether that's injury, whether that's poor play ahead of him, no matter what it is, he can come in and play. He's got the edge over Leavitt there. It's experience. Your next way you can look at this, who's got the most potential to either take the offense and keep it where it was or make it better? And that's Leavitt. And I don't think it's close. I love Trenton Bourguet. I will fight tooth and nail for him until the day I'm gone. But Sam Leavitt, again, you don't just come into a recruiting cycle as a 4-star guy and match up with a player like Jaden Rashada without having the talent and the upside. He's also a much younger guy than Bourguet is. Bourguet is going into his graduate season, while Sam Leavitt is a redshirt freshman like Jaden Rashada. So you've got a guy who is so much younger with more upside, and somebody who can end up proving to the organization, to the program, that he is worthy of being QB2 and being solidified QB2. Heck, he could be QB1, depending on how everything shakes out. But it's really between those 2 guys, in my book. You're going to go in with the assumption that Rashad is QB1. He's been here. He's the face of the Kenny Dillingham era to begin everything. he should be number one. Should. But we're looking at QB2, and you've got a really good competition here with Bourguet and with Leavitt. How it shakes out, who knows? There's factors that go into it. Again, it's game time experience, it's upside, it's the ability to replace and become QB1, not just come in off the bench. Like, if you are looking at a new quarterback in week 7, who do you like to be the starting quarterback against X team? Who do you like to be the starting quarterback when something goes wrong with the team? Who do you like as the starting quarterback beyond this year? And obviously Bourguet is out of time after this year, but this is where Leavitt can prove his value to the program to be that guy of the future. The quarterback 2 situation, very fascinating for Sun Devils football. But overall, we're going to be really curious to see the future of the position. And you're going to get a really, really good glimpse of it in training camp. Because between Leavitt and between Rashada, these guys could be the future of the team. But of course, they're not the only guys. But this is where you have a very good chance to begin assessing where you're going to go from here. We're going to talk about that in a little more detail here in just one moment. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy your tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and the best price guarantee. Game Time takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Game Time is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. See the view from your seat before you buy. That way you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. All-in prices will show the total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal before you check out, and you can buy tickets in seconds with 2 easy taps. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the start of the event and even an hour after it starts. It's the place for last-minute tickets. Find exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals on tickets for any event that you can think of. Zone deals, you pick the section, Game Time picks the seats for big-time savings. And the Game Time guarantee means you're always going to get the best price, because if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app and use code LOCKEDON for $20 off of your first purchase. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate you as always for tuning in, and a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Check out Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and Amazon Fire, and stay up to date with all the biggest stories, college and pro, and every single league. Let's wrap up our conversation with the potential future. Now, I know what you're thinking. Richie, we're just supposed to be looking at training camp. We're just supposed to be looking at spring ball. We're just focusing on 2024. And you're absolutely right. That has been the point of these podcasts, is looking at what's in front of us. Not a year down the road, not 2 years, whatever. But you can't not pay attention to it. Let me paint a picture for you. Because right now, Arizona State has Jaden Rashada, right? And until further notice, you work under the assumption he is QB1. Well, if he proves himself this year, he proves himself in spring ball, and then he continues to build upon that, and he gets better in training camp, and he has a breakout year as a redshirt freshman, you feel good about your future. If he doesn't, then you take a look at Sam Leavitt. And if Sam Leavitt does the things that I just mentioned Jaden Rashada does, then you feel good about this season. You hope that he is able to bring that momentum into training camp and then into the regular season and have a breakout freshman year, redshirt freshman year. Then Trenton Bourguet, if he's the best one, then you hope that he can have that magical Jake Plummer senior season and get Arizona State over the top and start winning more football games. But if none of those three look good, well, now the state of your program is going to be in a little bit of trouble. This could also lead to Arizona State adding another quarterback through the transfer portal. I don't know who's out there right now, but I'll tell you that the portal's going to open up again here in the next month or so, and guys are going to leave. And Arizona State is going to be taking a look at guys to see who can come in to add to that competition. That's where it affects you right now. If Rashada, Bourguet, and Leavitt look terrible, first of all, you still have Navi Bruzon, who is the two-time Gatorade Player of the Year and a state champion from Liberty High School. He was a preferred walk-on. He is the definition of Activate the Valley. For all we know, he could look like a stud, and he could be the guy. But if nobody on the current roster for the Sun Devils looks good enough, then you might be looking at other prospects and other opportunities for this year. You could look at any quarterback who enters the transfer portal. You could look at anyone that is going to be recruitable for the next year or 2 years, whatever. You start looking at guys. They already have a 4-star quarterback for next year with Michael Butter Tolleson. They are doing their homework on the quarterback position, as well you should, because it's the most important position in sports. It's the most important position for your organization, for your program, for your franchise, college and pro. Arizona State is only going to go as far as their quarterback takes them. Sure, you have some outliers, like your Alabamas have carried some okay quarterbacks. They still need a good play from those quarterbacks, though. You don't win national championships with bad quarterback play. You don't win conference championships with bad quarterback play. You don't win 8, 9, 10 games with bad quarterback play. Unless you've got the Iowa Hawkeyes defense, you need good offensive production, and it starts with the quarterback spot. So Arizona State needs to get it right at quarterback, and they need to get it right this year. This is your first real chance to see if guys have grown, to see if guys are learning a new system under Kenny Dillingham and Marcus Arroyo. There is a lot of expectations here now that you're in year 2, because there is going to be a microscope that is put on Kenny Dillingham and everybody else. You had year 1 or year 0, even if you want to call it, because they were working from scratch. They are now looking to improve upon last year. Back-to-back 3-win seasons. How much better are you going to be in 2024? It starts at the quarterback spot. You've got the receivers. You've got the running backs. You've got quality tight ends. You've got an offensive line that has done a lot of work to get better than where it was last year. Now it's a matter of if the quarterback can take advantage of everything that you have there. That's where I am going to be paying the closest attention to in spring ball, is where are we at with quarterback play? How have these guys taken a step forward? That's where you need to be paying the most attention, because it not only affects you this year, it affects your future. It not only affects spring ball, but it affects your summer, because maybe Arizona State does go out and bring in a big guy. Maybe there is big name quarterbacks who enter the transfer portal after spring ball. Whenever the portal opens up, I want to say it's mid-March, but it might be sooner or later. I want to say it's in March for sure. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll have to check. But if these guys don't show up, then yeah, you're going to look to bring in more guys. You're not necessarily rolling with the 4, 5, 6 guys that you have on this roster right now. You're going to be constantly trying to improve this team. If the quarterbacks show up and they show out the way I think they will, because I do think that all 3 of the big name guys with Rashada, Leavitt, and Bourguet, I do think they're going to have strong camps because they've got more experience. But if for some reason they don't, then it is going to affect what happens next. It's going to affect your future for 6 months from now. So pay attention. to how this shakes out. It is by far the most important battle. We've looked at offense. We've looked at defense. Check out those episodes if you haven't. But that's where we're at with the quarterback spot. Who do you like the best? Are you all in on one of these quarterbacks? How do you feel about Jaden Rashada in year 2? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36, the podcast as well, at LO_Sun Devils, wherever you're getting your episodes. Hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. You can stay in touch by following me on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. And as always, a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. You're the best. We had a double feature today. Earlier in the morning, we had talked about the basketball program, the state of where we're at. We have taken a look at all sorts of good stuff there. So make sure that you check it out. Make sure that you stay up to date with everything. We'll be back. We got more football to talk about. We got basketball to talk about. We're going to be your number one source. So tune in. I'll see you next time. And until then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.